We'll go ahead and get started. Let me just take one more double check at the waiting room here. I don't see anyone popping up, but I just want to make sure that we're staying on time because we have a full schedule of events for you all today. And I would love to just welcome all of our participants from the Ebrg Council. I know some of you may be new to the council or just experiencing your first meeting after your company has joined Vibrant Pittsburgh. And so this is a quarterly meeting that we host with the leaders of employee resource groups in the Pittsburgh region who are members of Vibrant Pittsburgh. The Ebrg Council has been around, I believe, for at least 6 years. I'm gonna have to defer to Darcel and Juanita to really put me straight on the year that it was founded. But we have been really excited to connect to more people. Give me a second, more people in the waiting room. We're excited to connect to the people in the waiting room and to connect to the folks on this call who are either the president or chair of their Ebrg or overseeing the entire Ebrg process within their organization. So that is who is comprised of the Ebrg Council. And we know that we have seen a huge influx of organizations creating employee resource groups and affinity groups post 2020. So this is a really important initiative to make sure that you all have resources to each other and that we're unsiloing the work that you're doing at your organizations around affinity groups and folks that are from marginalized communities to create inclusion and belonging. We do want to just go over the agenda really quickly. So we just did our welcome. We're going to go over the meeting notes, minutes from our last meeting, which was held on February the 1st. And then we will go into a panel discussion and some live Q&A. So as you are listening to our speakers, please feel free to jot down some questions or think of things that would be great advice that our panelists might not already have. And then we will also have an open share opportunity. So if there's something that your organization is doing, that your Ebrg is doing, please feel free to share that at the end of our session. So last meeting, we had a facilitated working session, which Kai Kohler, our Talent Engagement and Community Relations Executive Ally, helped us facilitate around what we were going to do for the rest of this fiscal year with our Ebrg Council. And we decided that we really wanted to find out what resources were already available to the Ebrg Council and which ones were still needed. And then we established that for the coming year, we would break down our meetings into 4 different phases, whether the first one being planning and launching, the second one being retaining and engaging, and the third being growing. So right now, this is our session that is focused on planning and launching. In our last meeting, we had some really great conversations in breakout rooms that were facilitated by our co-chairs and myself and the rest of the Vibrant team, where we were able to hear a lack of resources for folks outside of Vibrant Pittsburgh that exist right now. And so we're working on trying to compile some new resources for anybody that is running an employee resource group or thinking about starting an employee resource group. And the last thing we talked about was that this year, 2022, is a succession year for our co-chairs. So we will be talking about how we're going to recruit new co-chairs for the next 2-year term. So this is year 2 of their 2-year term. And right now, as I mentioned, we are in the EBR session, council session called Along Came an ERG. So we have experienced about 50% increase in organizations starting employee resource groups. This came out of the social justice awareness and racial justice reckoning of 2020, as well as a disconnect that employers were feeling to their employees during the pandemic. Really wanting to make sure that there was community built and inclusion and belonging initiatives and being responsive to some of the racial equity and injustices that were happening at the time. We had George Floyd's murder. We also had Asian hate. So we saw a lot of our ERGs that were African American and Black focused, as well as Asian American focused, having a highlight, but also additional pressure to perform and to also show up in the workplace and to educate and to connect resources to the entire company. And then that's a really difficult task to take on. So the Employee Business Resource Group Council is here to be a third party listening ear, and also a sounding board for folks that want to kind of talk about ways that they can grow and stay connected, and different types of employee resource groups that may start to come out from 2020 to 2021 and now into 2022. A lot of businesses are actually growing. The tech sector has picked up. So there's a lot of tech hiring in the Pittsburgh region, and there's a lot of ERGs that are starting from young organizations. And also, I think there's just more awareness around the fact that employee business resource groups have been around for 30, 40 years. And it's time for your organization, if you are not already doing something, to connect culture and talent and marketing and business relations to your underrepresented employees. The time is now. So this session is around those that are in the momentum of planning and trying to execute, getting executive buy-in, figuring out the structure, if their ERG is going to be more focused on the employees, or if it's going to be external, or is it going to be a business-focused group. We want to dissect that conversation for anybody who's in the room today that may be kind of teeter-tottering in the planning and launching phase. The launching phase was something like I said, we saw a lot of, and we have some folks on the call on our panel who were able to really get that executive buy-in recently that they may not have had the interest around before, and also the momentum and the desire from the employees. This is what your employees want. They want the employee resource groups and the affinity groups. They want to feel like their voice is heard, and they want to move progress around diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. So that's the real purpose of this session around Along Came an ERG, and we hope to see more and more employee resource groups from the Vibrant Pittsburgh membership base start to blossom. And if you don't have an employee business resource group already, you know that I'm going to talk about Allegheny Allies and ways that you can plug into the regional employee resource group that Vibrant Pittsburgh launched last month. And next, I would love to introduce, let me find where her picture is. I would love to introduce Darcel Madkins, who is one of our co-chairs here at the Ebrg Council, and has been a great resource for Vibrant Pittsburgh over the years. And I would love for her to talk a little bit about what this position has been and some of the plans that we have coming up. Go ahead, Darcel.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me first say thank you, Gina and Vibrant Pittsburgh. I've been part of the Ebrg Vibrant Pittsburgh Council for about maybe 6-7 years now, and I can honestly say it has grown. We had just talked about it earlier, how we haven't met in person, but I will say we have more attendance online. So it has been very helpful for me, as well as working at PNC, being a founding member of our EBRGs and previous president of our African American EBRG. It also helps with collaboration and also see what other companies are doing so we can work on employee engagement, professional development. One of the initiatives that we have for 2022 is peer EBRG mentoring. And we're hoping to get more people to participate in our EBRGs as mentors and mentees. And what we do is we're able to walk you through, if you're a new EBRG, or if even you're a EBRG member, been there for a while, and want to, talk to someone, brainstorm and work on some other initiatives. So we're hoping that if you have any questions, you can sign up for that. Also this year, Gina and I and Juanita had talked about it's time for us to pass the torch to the next leaders. Keep in mind, we'll always be here for you as a resource, but we also wanted to see who would be interested to step up to be the co-chairs for 2023 and 2024. So we have, and if you can see the screen, we have the responsibilities. But once again, if you want to reach out to Juanita or myself and have a one-on-one and talk about some next steps, feel free to reach out to us. And also there is a link, I just seen it was posted, so if you can look at that in the chat room. And with all that, I would like to introduce Juanita, and she's gonna take the ball to the next court.
Thank you, Gina and Darcel. I think, Darcel, you pretty much wrapped up the experience and what Vibrant Pittsburgh has been for me as a BRG leader as well. It's been a really great opportunity for me to connect with others who are also in this role, to learn from them, as well as share some of the best practices that I have. But today we have a ton of information to go over with, and I'm so happy that we have the three panelists that we do with us today. So I'm just going to jump right in and get started. But before I do want to invite the panelists to introduce themselves. So if we can start off maybe with Jennifer, if you can introduce yourself to the team.
Sure, thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Pablonis. I am CMU staff person. I'm also the Employee Resource Group Advisor, and I will be talking to you a little bit about our employee resource groups today.
Thank you. And Stacey, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stacey Hamilton. I'm the Human Resource Specialist with the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority. I do want to thank Gina, Winstead, and Juanita, Lomax for this opportunity, and the whole Vibrant Pittsburgh team. I am, excuse me, of course, I'm going to lose my voice as I'm talking, but I'm the Employee Resource Group Coordinator at PWSA, and we are going through the planning phase of the ERG at PWSA. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Tammy.
Hi, everyone. And yes, thank you to Vibrant Pittsburgh for this opportunity. My name is Tammy Spencer-Bay. I am a Vice President, Senior Specialist Project Manager for our Enterprise Data Management team, but I'm also the Regional Co-Chair for our Impact Pittsburgh EBRG, which is our Multicultural Employee Business Resource Group.
All right, thank you, ladies. All right, so let's jump right into it. So first question that I have for you, who was the originator or who initiated the BRGs within your organization? Can you tell me a little bit about whether it was employee-led or leadership encouraged, and which one do you think is better?
Hi, it's Stacey Hamilton. I'll jump right in there. Again, I'm the HR specialist at PWSA, but our employee resource group was initiated, or I'll say it was spearheaded by our chief of HR, Logan Carmichael. He's our chief people and culture officer, and he is fairly new to our organization. He has just about 1 year with PWSA, and one of the first things that he wanted to do was to implement our diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. And this was even before his strategic planning engagement that he presented to PWSA and process. So ERGs, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion, is definitely something that's at the forefront of our organization, definitely starting with the head of our human resource department. And you know, it's definitely something that's moving through the organization as well. So we certainly have a big culture shift happening, and it's just an exciting time to be a part of it.
Thank you. How about you, Tammy? Were EBRGs initiated by the employees at BY Mellon, or was that something that was more so directed by your senior leaders?
So the EBRGs have been around for a very long time. So I've only been with BNY Mellon for about 3 years. However, all of our EBRGs are employee-led. They all have co-chairs, and we're also a global company. So we're also at the global level as well. So we have 6 EBRGs, and within each of those EBRGs, we have a global representation. But the EBRGs within BNY Mellon are to help drive the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and strategic plan, right? So what we do is we work very closely with our DEI team to ensure that we're driving the DEI goals. And that trickles down from the top all the way down to the EBRG co-chairs, regional co-chairs, global co-chairs, et cetera.
Thank you. And I think you did touch upon something that I'm going to circle back around on a little bit later.
Okay.
But Jen, how about you?
So for us at Carnegie Mellon University, our president started a climate task force to really get a pulse as to what was going on campus. And after numerous town halls and interviews and meetings, the faculty and staff really were insistent that they wanted an increase in diversity, equity, and inclusion across the campus. And as a way to sort of help that, the ERGs were created within the fall of last year. And we started with 3 pilot groups. And that, that's currently how it's structured at CMU, but it's very, very employee-led, but we have a strong leadership buy-in and support system.
Perfect. So I did want to kind of ask you ladies a question in terms of how your BRGs got started. It sounds like it was much more leader-led, but can you talk a little bit about what information was provided to those BRG leaders as they stepped into those roles? Did you have a business case or a charter that you needed to follow by, or was that something that the teams had to create themselves?
I'll jump in there again. But yeah, we didn't have a business case or a guide to sort of say. We definitely, in going through the planning of this, was doing a lot of research, trying to figure out what was the best route to go. And of course, Vibrant Pittsburgh has the wealth of knowledge and resources. So when it came to, determining, what information or guide we wanted to follow, we definitely relied on the Vibrant Pittsburgh toolkit, as it's definitely an outstanding resource, outstanding document to use and kind of prepare in order to get this off the ground and up and running and as you're planning with your teams.
So Juanita, I'll jump in with BNY Mellon. A lot of our EBRGs have chapters, right, across the globe. Mm-hmm. And when those chapters are starting to come into fruition or they're being thought of, they do have to present a business case. They have to talk about why they need it for their region. What is the goal? What are their plans, et cetera. So it's kind of like a strategic plan, but a business case. They do present it to our global impact or our global leadership at that executive level. And then once that is approved, then usually a chapter is created. So for instance, Impact, which again is our multicultural employee business resource group, has 24 chapters and 2 new chapters are coming on board. So we'll have 26 chapters within the global footprint of BNY Mellon. And that is just Impact. We have the Women Initiatives group, we have the VetNet, Gen Edge, Prism. So we have like all those, and all of those have different chapters, and the same goes for all of the chapters, is presenting a business case to get a new chapter going.
And Tammy, just a follow-up question. So when a chapter is being considered as standing up, is that something that the employees are bringing forth? And what is the process that they have to go through? Do they need to get buy-in from certain leaders, or they just put that plan together and present it? Can you elaborate a little bit?
Right. So again, because we're at a global level, we have a lot of those global events, right? So we could have an Impact. I'll talk a lot about Impact because that's what I'm the regional co-chair of. So with Impact, we have Impact global events. And so a lot of those employees will attend those Impact events and see the work that we're doing within those different chapters or across the footprint. And so within those different regions, they'll say, you know what, I think we should have a Impact chapter here because we could do some work within India, or we could do work in Singapore or Brazil or whatever the case may be, right? So when they do that, they create a business case and say, hey, we want to start a chapter, Impact Brazil per se, and we want to, and this is our goal, we want to fall under this umbrella. These are the things that, this is why we want to do it. This is where we think we're going to have a quote impact on our employees here in that area.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Jennifer, I don't know if there's any type of business case that's required for your BRGs or if they have to put together a charter, but do you want to speak a little bit about what that looks like within your organization?
Sure. We do not use business case scenarios for the 3 pilot ERGs that we have, which are the Sankofa Black Faculty and Staff Alliance, the LGBTQIA Faculty and Staff Alliance, and our Veterans Alliance. And those 3 were chosen because of all of the listening tours that occurred, and those were really based on discussions that were held with the faculty and staff. Those 3 seemed to be the most requested. And so we went with those as the pilot groups. And then, we could talk about it further on later on in the discussion. I know we're going to talk about building, but so we sort of use that sort of strategy going forward because in the fall, we're going to be expanding our ERGs. But like Stacey mentioned, we use the Vibrant toolkit to really like set out our framework and our structure as to how those 3 pilot groups would be, established and stood up.
Awesome. And you actually touched upon the next question just a little bit. So I did want to ask you ladies about how and what's the process that you've gone through to kind of gather employee interest in participating with the BRGs. And I know, Jennifer, you just said you did listening tours, but was there anything else that you did to kind of get people interested in engaging and joining these BRGs?
So what we did was once we really heard, especially with those 3 specific groups, that those would be our pilots. We had sort of like the founding members of each of the ERGs that were the ones that were willing to do the work to sort of lay the foundation. They were the ones that helped us to create the mission statement, the goals, and really how we wanted to structure each of the ERGs, which would be all somewhat similar, but they all had their own sort of, mission statement. And so from there, then we use all of our various communication channels, such as our university newsletter that goes out via email to all of the community, all of our stakeholder meetings, so like our staff council, our faculty senate, and really like any opportunity that I had that I could go and talk to someone and say, hey, this is what we're doing, please come see what we're all about. And it really became like a grassroots, like word of mouth, everybody getting out and really talking about what was coming. And there was a lot of excitement and people were telling other people, and it just started to build and build and build using a membership form. So we have a website. And each of the websites, each of the ERGs have their own websites, but there was one form as like a membership form, and someone who was interested would say which ERG they're interested in, and we would compile that, make D lists, and then that's how the word was really getting out to those who were interested to let them know about our events and meetings and such.
Interesting, thank you. How about you, Stacey?
All right. Well, we're still in the planning phase. So we are planning on issuing a survey, an engagement survey for our staff to see where the engagement is for ERGs. We do have a bit of an interesting environment because we do have a heavy union environment. We have 2 different unions underneath our organization, along with non-union employees. So it is going to be a challenge to see, how we can incorporate union staff into ERGs, mainly because, since they have, leadership outside of the organization that they kind of rely on for, different things, union contracts. They have stewards within our organization that already are fighting on their behalf. So trying to figure out the best way to merge, union and non-union and their engagement, that's going to be a challenge for us. But we are going to get started with an employee engagement survey to see if we can get our union and non-union interested. And hopefully from there, we can continue to build a bridge to see exactly what type of ERGs. Initially, we're thinking that we just want to have a general one as opposed to breaking it out into different minority groups, only because we are a smaller organization and then the union on top of that. So we're thinking just a resource group that encompasses, a diversity, equity, inclusion, and more so speaks to, having that, being able to build relationships and build that with leadership through the engagement survey is the route that we plan to take here very soon.
That's a very interesting twist to it. I don't think I've talked to a leader who had to solve for a problem of union and non-union, and not to do a shameless plug, but maybe that's a great opportunity to kind of connect through the mentoring program to see if someone has experienced or gone through that, and maybe they may be able to offer some assistance. But I would be curious to learn how you kind of maneuver through that problem. So maybe that's something we can talk about during the next panel.
Absolutely. I mean, I completely agree. Union employees, their time is valuable. If you want to do something outside of their schedule, you definitely have to make it worthwhile for them. So I'm definitely willing to collaborate if someone's experienced this before.
Awesome. And Tammy, I kind of wanted to hear, because your perspective is from that global standpoint. So how does gathering employee interest and engagement kind of look at BNY Mellon?
Sure. So with BNY Mellon, every year at the beginning of the year, starting in January, we get a set of goals that are handed down to us from our DEI Global Impact team. Mm-hmm. And they set those goals. And so we look at those goals as a leadership, and then we send out an employee engagement survey based on those goals. And we ask our employees, what kind of events or programs do you want to see throughout the year for 2022? Mm-hmm. And so we get that back, and we usually get about 55 to 60% participation, which is really good. Mm-hmm. We have increased that because we really are trying to bridge the gap with collaboration with more of our EBRGs. So we really collaborate with our other EBRGs within the organization. So that's one way we do it. The other way that we do it, and this was very, very successful, is within Impact, we have our regional co-chair. So it's myself and another person, his name is Miguel. We have our PMO group, which consists of our PMO team, our finance team, and our communications team. We have our internal connections team, which connects our internal businesses with Impact. And then we have our external connections team, which connects with the external folks, like, the different organizations, different nonprofit organizations. We make sure we go outside from a community standpoint. So what we do is we have co-chairs for all of those committees, and we have those committees, all those co-chairs get together, and we do a kind of like a video presentation of here's our EBRG, this is what Impact is, this is what our goals are, and here are the different committees that you can get involved in. And this is what PMO does, this is what finance does, this is what communications and internal and external connections does. We send that out to our Impact community. We also send it out to our other EBRG community, and we have them, they watch it, and then we will have them do a survey and see if they want to participate and volunteer within Impact. And if they do want to volunteer, out of that, we did that this year, and we received 28 volunteers just from that video presentation. And then we did a Q&A session, and we had all our leaders, all our co-chairs on the Q&A session, and then we were able to answer questions from time level commitment to what does this committee do, to any other deeper questions that they may have had.
Well, I will send my team your name so they know who to thank for the work that's about to be coming their way. I think that's an awesome approach to kind of getting volunteers, because I think that's something that, a lot of BRG leaders struggle with, because this is all voluntary work. It's kind of hard to ask people, on top of what you do day to day, can you take on this additional work set? But it's all very important work, and work that has to happen. And, a lot of us are passionate about it. But I thought that was an awesome approach to kind of getting that information out there. So, no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and we stress, right? So we stress that if we have more employees, if we have more volunteers, then, the hours aren't, it's not a heavy lift.
Right.
And so we really try to stress that, because we know that our everyday work, our everyday job is stressful enough.
Yeah.
So we want our EBRG work to be fun, right? And we don't want it to be stress, right? So, come to the EBRGs to do something that you're passionate about. And where does your passion lie? And that's where we try to bridge the gap with our employees to say, hey, impact is where you can show off your passion and show off like what you want to do for the community, or what you want to do for the employees, or how you want to, develop, or et cetera. So that's what we try to really drive home within our EBRGs. So,
side question. I think that is great. That's one of the things that we definitely need to highlight, of what are the benefits. But outside of that, do you ever touch upon the professional benefits that come along with kind of leading a BRG?
Oh, absolutely. We talk about exposure all the time because our senior leadership and our executive leadership is they are so supportive and they are engaged. So I have to preface this and say that every chapter, every EBRG has executive support. And within the chapters, we have what we call ambassadors, our senior leadership ambassadors. And those ambassadors are assigned to each chapter to help guide the regional co-chairs to make sure that we don't go off the cuff and we're doing stuff crazy, right? But they also help us to think outside the box. And with that, we kind of preface like, this is a good opportunity for you all to have exposure to senior leadership, exposure to, meeting other folks, networking, opportunities for growth, because now you're meeting different business leaders in different segments. And the Pittsburgh office, the Pittsburgh regional campus does a very good job about celebrating the EBRGs. So this year, they have what they call the Pittsburgh Choice Awards, and they are actually given an award for a Pittsburgh campus EBRG advocate. And that award goes to someone who is, part of an EBRG that is doing really good work within the EBRGs.
That's awesome to hear that you guys are being celebrated for the work that you're doing. So kudos to you guys and your org. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next question. So I think you guys have touched upon this quite a bit, but I do want to circle back to this to see if there were any other resources that you may have used. So while you're in the planning and launching stages, outside of the Leadership Pittsburgh Toolkit, are there other resources that you have used to kind of develop and stand up the BRGs? And Jennifer and Stacey, I'm going to gear these questions more towards you, because I know, Tammy, your BRG is much more mature.
So for us, we did rely pretty heavily on the Vibrant Pittsburgh Toolkit, and that's just because it was so robust. And, kind of we felt why recreate the wheel when it was really laid out. So we made sure we touched upon all the really big highlights, like especially like Tammy was saying, to have the leadership buy-in. So the way it's structured for our ERGs at CMU is we have a senior advisory committee, and that's made up of a mixture of executives on the academic and the administrative side. So we have deans, vice presidents, vice provosts. So we have a nice sort of cross-section of senior executives whose responsibility it is to ensure that the ERGs are promoted, they're guided, they're funded, so that we are able to do some things that we want to do, which was another thing we learned from the toolkit, which is really important. We look towards some of our other university committees, like our staff council, and thought, do we want to go on a more structured, formalized sort of approach that way, or something a little less formal? And we went with a co-lead situation where each of our ERGs have 2 individuals whose responsibility it is to lead the group, keep them on track of the mission and the goals, but that it's the members themselves who's responsible for creating the agenda. So like I've heard from the other panelists, what we did was we sent out a survey to our members in the beginning of the year and asked what kind of programming and events would they be interested in. And it was all about trying to make sure that, we are a group for the members, not just to have a really formalized structure where maybe just a couple of individuals are in control. They're in control of ensuring that we're staying on pace, but it's really all about the members. And then at the end of the year, we'll have a follow-up survey and ask those same members, how did we do? Do we meet the sort of, requirements that you thought you wanted when you became a member of this ERG? What can we do better? What did we do great? And then, adjust and spin for the following year.
Thank you. And I'll let Stacey answer that question too, but I do want to ask you guys in terms of the programming. So I know we talk about that a lot, but curious to hear what type of programming people have been coming back and asking for. But Stacey, how about you?
Yes, the Vibrant Pittsburgh Toolkit is definitely our main resource at the moment. We kind of use that as, like I said, a guidebook, or, I've even been able to put together an outline of, how to move forward through our planning phase with the toolkit. I will say, at PWSA, we really are starting at ground zero. Some of our conversations and meetings are really just, defining, what an ERG is, and what the purpose is, and how this can impact our organization. So utilizing the toolkit, as well as just some basic research. There's some really great videos out there just explaining the impact that ERGs can have on the organization, and the type of communication and networking that is brought about from ERGs. So we're having those type of conversations. What's the difference between an ERG and an EBRG? That's where we're at as we're trying to plan this and really, get our senior leadership as well as employees and staff around this particular mission. But the toolkit has been our main resource.
Right. So Jennifer and Tammy, I wondered if you can speak to just briefly what type of programs members have been coming back and saying that they're looking forward to having as a part of your BRGs.
Sure, I'll jump in really quick. It's thought leadership, a lot of development. So those are the 2 really high ones that we have. The other one that came in third was volunteerism. So we know that we're in, COVID, so it's really hard to volunteer, but we are looking for opportunities with different organizations to do virtual volunteering right now until we get the okay to do in-person volunteering. So we have made partnerships with like AHA to do some things and different things like that. BNY Mellon has a very good program where we get credit for volunteering. So if we find an organization that we volunteer with, we actually get credit for that, and then BNY Mellon will actually give them money for our volunteer hours. So it's really nice. So we really do try to focus on volunteering within organizations. So those were the top three, you know, that were really on our employees' minds.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then for us, the need for building an internal community of those that self-identify within each group was very important. I think that was at the top of the list. So for example, the LGBTQIA, you know, they just really wanted to find others across the CMU campus that were like them, that have gone through similar situations with them, that they can speak to freely about things that are going on. So that was really big. You know, professional development is big, getting outside speakers to come and learning lots of different things. Community engagement was really big as well. We had a winter clothing necessity drive that we held in November. And historically, CMU, from what I've been told, because I'm newer to the university, but when they did community engagement, it typically was including the surrounding neighborhoods. So like really Squirrel Hill, Shady Side, Oakland, and our Sankofa Black Faculty and Staff Alliance were the loudest, saying that like we really need to go a little bit further to the different communities that really needed it. So we made sure that the recipient of our clothing drive was outside of those three, and we went to Family Links in East Liberty to provide them with it was like 400 items of the necessity clothing. And then actually just this past Saturday, CMU every year has a sort of event where the Special Olympics come and they use our facilities. So we have a really nice stadium, and we've got the basketball courts and the pool and all that. So the Special Olympics comes and uses our facilities for their competition. And all of the co-leads, along with myself, volunteered as a unity and provided the food for, handed out the food for the athletes. So we try to really do a little bit of everything. For one of the ERGs, again, for just the communication, wanting not necessarily to only be able to get together when we have meetings. They wanted to be able to interact with each other. And so they're creating a special Slack channel so that if they want to communicate with each other, knowing that they're a member, and say, hey, do you want to go running in the park this Saturday? That they have that way to meet people in a nice, safe manner. So
no, I think that's one of the important factors, is really understanding the community and work in which you work and live in, and making sure that you're extending your impact to where it really matters. So kudos to you guys for recognizing that and then really pushing to make that change. So we are at the end of the panel portion of the event, but before we turn it over for Q&A, I did want to ask all three of our guests, are there any closing remarks or words of wisdom that you want to leave us with before we move on?
I can go. For me, it is extremely selfishly rewarding to see how excited the people that are at CMU that are members, they're just so extremely happy about the existence of the ERGs. I've heard that there had been some previous attempts at maybe creating ERGs that kind of fizzled out, and they're just excited to have this opportunity to really make a mark at CMU, get that feeling of belonging. I mean, we're all at our jobs, more than we are at home. And so it's just the feeling that I get from watching the excitement of all of them. It's extremely satisfying. And I really feel like, if this is done right, we will be able to sustain this for a really long time.
Awesome, Jennifer. I would say, just keep going no matter how hard it may get. I know sometimes, you have your meeting, meeting after meeting and you're like, oh, this isn't going anywhere, but keep going, because it is needed. And it's very rewarding at the end, because once you see your employees involved and you get members that are doing the work, and they feel like they're engaged and that they belong. And that's the most important thing, is that you want your employees to belong to something. And these employee business resource groups help your employees belong to something. And you get them together with like-minded employees, other employees like themselves, and they are able to do great things. And so I would just say, keep going, keep pushing, keep striving. Those that are in the planning stages, don't give up. It may be hard sometimes. You maybe feel like you're in the valley, but you will come out of that valley and it will be successful. And those that are in the initiating and like engaging, and you're engaging your employees, man, once those employees start doing the work and they start really participating and you see a change, it's going to be very, very rewarding. And I know it's a passion for me to just help to celebrate, because we want to celebrate our colleagues that we work with. We're all unique and we're all different, and that's what makes us who we are as an organization. And so when we are able to celebrate our colleagues within these EBRGs, to really celebrate them for who they are and where they come from, and uplift them to make our organization better, but also make them and help uplift them and get them to that next level on where they want to be. It's rewarding. So keep going, keep striving.
Very well said.
And if I could just piggyback off of Tammy and Jennifer, but absolutely, this is rewarding work. And even though we're in the planning phase, I guess I just want to say that, you got to take it one step at a time. It's not a one-man band. It's just not one effort to move this forward. It does take a team of people, to recognize that this work is important and that we do need each other in order to push the mission and vision forward on this. So definitely, getting everyone on board, even if it's a small team, because right now we are developing this within our HR department as kind of a parent ERG to hopefully, bring on employees that want to take part and create their own, ERGs and move this forward. But it definitely takes a step and then another step and then another step to move it forward. So and I'm going to steal words from our elect Kintaji Brown. The perseverance is just, it's crucial at this point, right? You can't just, say I'm going to take this and put it on the back burner, but just to persevere with your team, with your senior leadership, in order for it to work and to move forward. So thank you so much.
Great words of wisdom, ladies. Thank you. So at this time, I'm going to open it up for questions and answers from the audience. So please feel free, if you feel comfortable being on camera, take yourself or turn your camera on, take yourself off mute, and feel free to ask our panelists any questions.
I think I have a question just to get the ball rolling, and because I'm really curious about the different sectors that you all work in, and we've been doing this virtually, some of you for the first time launching virtually, and I know that other people have been asking us as well, but what are some of the creative ways that you can launch an ERG or a BRG in this virtual environment? And what are some events that you've done to get your members of these affinity groups excited to participate?
I can jump in really quick. So some of the things, I know we started our EBRGs, but however, we have kickoffs. So we have impact kickoff and for the year 2022. And so we kind of go over, hey, this is what we did last year to kind of get everyone excited. We have a big, one pager of all the events that we did, and it looks bright and vibrant, and it looks like we have all these different things. And we have each, we have folks talk about what they did and why they helped to create an event, or why did they plan this program or something. So we kind of have the folks that talk about, or who have planned an event, talk about the event to the employees when we have these kickoff events. Because we feel that if they are hearing from those folks who are actually doing the work, and that they're planning events, that they're going to be like, oh man, that was exciting, and we're going to do it too. So we do that within all of our EBRGs. They do have some type of impact, kind of like a kickoff event at the global and regional level. And we also have meet and greets. So we've had a virtual meet and greet, where we did like a kind of a virtual, everyone bring your own coffee and let's talk, and do breakout rooms and different things like that. But we also then had a hybrid virtual meet and greet. And then today we just did a in-person meet and greet.
Hi, Gina, it's Danny. Can I ask Tammy a question? So this is my first time, so sorry if this question, if I don't have the context for it, but it sounds like your groups have like a start and ending point. I think with our employee resource groups, something that I struggle with is keeping them fresh. So because they just sort of go on in perpetuity. And as new people join the firm, they could just join in, so the composition changes. But what I'm hearing for you, is that correct, that you have like a year or a period of time and then it kind of starts over?
And Danny, if you could tell everybody where you're from too.
Oh, sure. I'm from Buchanan, Ingersoll, and Rooney.
One of our brand new members.
Yep.
So thanks for the question, Danny. So it's not really a start and end date. What we do is we have goals that are set from our DEI group, DEI team, that they say, here are your goals for 2022. This is what we're trying to do for 2022. And so the way we operate is our budget is from January 1st to December 31st. Okay. So we operate within that year. So each year we do get new folks. We've had people term off. We have co-chairs that have left the bank. And so now we're in, campaign of trying to find new co-chairs for our committees. So we have 2 co-chair seats available. And so now we're trying to get new co-chairs to fill those seats. So it's really not a start and end date. It's just, this is our budget. We have it for a year. We have to plan all of our events and programs within that year. And then, the new year starts a new budget in a new season.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, can I add for BNY and PNC? I'm with PNC and I work very well with Tammy. The officer roles change every 2 years. So you have an election year, yes, but your members will either grow because people left or came back. So that's always changing. And I do believe with BNY and PNC, we do an action plan for the year of all of our events we're going to take place. And that's based on the assessments and surveys from employees.
Yeah. So Danny, yeah, we do at the very beginning of the year, when we get our DEI goals from our DEI team, we send out all of our members, our impact members, a survey to say, what are you looking for this year? What are you most interested in? And that's how we kind of gauge. And then we focus our committees on those specific things that are going to engage those employees, because that's what they ask for.
Right.
And we trickle in, the other stuff like the social stuff and different things like that. But we really, we take that top 3, and those are the events that we focus on to ensure that we have it from a quarter basis. And then we move it from there.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Gina, actually, do you mind if I ask a question?
Yeah, certainly.
Sure.
Two-way.
Funny that you go on. So you, Darcel, you just said that PNC and BNY Mellon have a 2-year sort of commitment for leadership. We at CMU had decided to have a 1-year co-lead commitment. And now that I'm thinking about what's going to be rolling around in the fall, I'm almost wondering like, should I have said it was 2 years? How did you guys settle on 2 years, and what is everybody else doing with their leadership? Like what seems to be the standard amount of years?
So our D&I area at PNC, and I worked at BNY, had determined the 2 years, but I believe it shouldn't be 2 years, it should be 3. The first year is gathering, getting to know your group. The second year is implementing. I think that third year should be a transition year. That's very important to work with the previous leaders, to work with the new leaders, and have that as a transition year. So I think it to be more effective if it's 3 years versus 2. You can make it work in 2, but that last year is very difficult because I know when I transitioned, I spent the whole year working with the next president to get them on board.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that. So within Impact, so yeah, ours is about 3 years within Impact, but there are some of the other EBRGs that do 2 years. And so it really just depends on the EBRG and the senior leadership within that EBRG. But Darcel is absolutely right. That first year is definitely trying to get to know, the team, your leadership. You're bringing on new people, old people, people are leaving. You're trying to get to know your members. You're trying to understand what's working and what's not working. And the second year is really that implementation, like, okay, this is what I learned last year. Now we're going to implement, and you really can start now driving the agenda for that particular EBRG that you have. And I think the third year is, identifying, making sure we talked about that you all have I think a seminar or workshop coming up on, that transition plan or finding that successor. I think that's important. We also at BNY Mellon do the same thing. We actually have to interview the candidates, and they have to get interviewed by the senior leadership, and to ensure that they are a good fit and everything like that. So it's it definitely say about 3 years for Impact. But I know there's some other EBRGs within that circulate every 2 years.
And Jennifer, at Highmark, we do every 2 years for our leadership team as well. But I'm going to have to agree with Tammy and Darcel and say I would probably think 3 years is a better length for term. Because like, as Darcel said, that first year, you're really just learning. You have to learn all the key people, the players, the politics, working to learn and understand, or at least for me in my prep or my seat, I had to learn the strategies of each, or not each business area, but a lot of different business areas to see how do we tie in our group's strategic goals with the business so we can show the value add so that we start to build up our reputation in the organization. So we spent a lot of time, I would say probably 1.5 years at least, doing that piece. And then we spent the next year really just building those partnerships and helping business areas through our strategy to really help them meet their goals. The last 6 months of the term, it would have been me doing a transition to the new leader. However, I am rolling into year 4, and I will say that at some point you have to consider a burnout from an individual being in a particular role, probably past their expiration. So that's something to always be mindful of.
Okay, thank you all. I really appreciate that.
I had a question. First, I want to say thank you so much, Juanita, Jennifer, Stacey, Tammy, and Darcel for a very informative panel discussion. I actually had 2 questions, but the first one was, how do you define success for, the launching, phase? I would love to hear like your different perspectives on that.
So particularly for me, we set a goal for how many individuals we wanted to have volunteer to be a part of the BRGs, at least when it came to launching. So that was what we really looked at. When I stepped into my role, we really rebranded our BRG. We invited all of our senior leaders to the Duquesne Club to kind of say, okay, here we are, we're re-announcing our BRG. We want your support. please connect with me and have conversations to talk about how we can assist you in your business. And one of the key success factors was how many of those senior leaders actually connected with me and how many of them voluntold people that they were going to be a part of helping us kind of relaunch our BRG for that first year. So I think it really does vary depending on your organization and the direction of your D&I areas. That's something that you can talk about with your leadership team on setting up what the success looks like.
Yeah. So for us at BNY Mellon, success looks like, our membership, right? So are we increasing our membership year after year? Even if it's by 1%, but are we increasing? And two, are we engaging our employees every quarter? So they look at the metrics on that as well, because after every event or program that we do, we send out a survey, and we base that on how many people attended, how many people completed the survey, and how many people didn't complete the survey. And if they didn't complete the survey, now we have a job of trying to find out why you didn't complete the survey. So we do randomly have our communications team reach out to some folks that have attended an event and say, hey, we sent you a survey. Did you just not see it? Or, how did you like the event? Because sometimes we don't get a lot of engagement from the survey. So it's very hard to kind of measure that. So we try to tell our senior leadership, like, hey, we send out surveys and we send them out multiple times, but they don't react. So they charged us with, hey, can you reach out to those members and randomly select some and just reach out to say, hey, you attended, but that also helps our engagement too, right? Because now we're engaging with those employees and now we're going to get them engaged and they're like, oh, they really care. And they asked me if what I liked about the event or what I liked about this program or et cetera. So it really does help the engagement process. So are we engaging our employees, and what does that metric look like?
Thank you so much, Juanita and Tammy. And the last question that I had, I know we're at time, but you all had discussed one of the issues was getting buy-in, establishing buy-in from your employees. And Tammy, I think you answered this quite eloquently in terms of articulating to your employees that this is a good professional development opportunity. Because I hear from a lot of times from my interactions with member organizations who are wanting to plan and start in Ebrg or ERG, that getting that buy-in has been very difficult for them. And so I would love to hear any other strategies that you have employed to establish buy-in for your folks, especially when everyone is at capacity, because you are volunteering to do this work.
I can answer that. And so at PNC, and I know BNY as well, the buy-in has to come from the leadership. It has to come from top in order for your employees to be engaged. What PNC did is also put it in the managers as well as employees' performance reviews. So that way you're able to get more buy-in, because now your upper management's talking about it, managers are talking about it as part of your review. So it's basically, you're not being told, but you're encouraged. It also helps you get to the next level, to the position, and also meet with different leaders in the organization. So definitely it has to come from the top and work its way down. And I think if you follow that, you'll get a really good number of people invested.
Yeah, agreed. It's definitely part of BNY Mellon's employee development or self-evaluation within our performance evaluations. The other thing is that we have events where we specifically say these are for impact members, and you're going to meet the head of global operations and technology. Like, we really get the Pittsburgh Leadership Council together, and they meet the employees. So it's opportunities for them to meet the employees as well. Or even the senior and executive levels, when they come into town, we often try to set up some type of meet and greet when we can, if we're able to do that. So I mean, I think it's just you know, opportunities within your senior leadership to willing to meet with your employees of those EBRG groups to say, hey, here I am. And, you know, what are you looking for? Like, just have a conversation. And I think when you have that, when you're able to establish that with your senior leadership, it's very helpful. Again, like I said, we have ambassadors that are part of each chapter, and those ambassadors are the leadership for those regions. And so when they're engaged and when they come to events and when they're on our calls, our meetings, when they are participating and employees see that, they know that, you know, there's engagement there, and they're able to reiterate the same thing that we're talking about, but it's coming from that higher level.
And I was just going to add, so Irvin, I know, you know, I think it's always best to have top down, but I know one of the challenges for me, because our organization it's a larger organization and people are they're just heads down busy. Like no one has the time to focus on anything outside of their bubbles. I had to really make a value proposition on why our leaders should be coming to me instead of me going to them. So an example of one of the things that we did was over the last 2 years when we had a lot of the racial issues that were coming up, we actually would, as a group, review some of the content, whether it was print or TV ads that our organization was putting together. And then we would send them recommendations and say, hey, we think this is great, but here are some of the things that you could have possibly changed so that you didn't come across in a certain type of light. And I think our marketing leadership team was like, okay, we did not think of this. We have this group here that can do this work set for us and make sure that we're representing our company appropriately. So now that leader from our marketing team now comes to our group on a quarterly basis and say, okay, here's the TV ads, here's the print ads, here's all kinds of things. They're like, this is what we're doing. We really need you guys to review it, stamp it, approve from your perspective before we can move on. And that has been able to help me build a relationship with our marketing team. So when I want to have large initiatives, our budget is only about a couple $1,000s, but there are often times where I'm like, okay, I need $50,000 to put on an event. I know I can go to marketing and say, hey, I'm putting on this event. It's going to have this type of exposure. Can you please sponsor it at maybe $10,000 or $20,000? And oftentimes I can show the value in that program and in our partnership, and we're able to gather additional support. So we've done that with numerous areas around our organization to kind of create that value that the leaders see in our group and they want to engage us.
Thank you all. It's really poignant. Thank you.
And I know we're at time, so I think it goes back over to Gina. Unless there are any more questions and you wanted to keep going, it's totally up to you, Gina.
If anyone has any other questions, we did have a little bit extra padded time in here. If there were any lingering questions or things you wanted help with personally with your EBRG. Once, going twice. Okay. And I really do appreciate the insight that you all were able to contribute, the expertise. I hope we were able to help Stacey a little bit too as she's going through this difficult planning phase virtually with, you know, challenges with union versus non-union employees. It's really interesting to hear the types of struggles to get the initiation. And I do have one quick question, Stacey, how long have you been in the planning phase? How long has this been?
I'll say just the start of this year. I mean, I know last year, we joined Vibrant Pittsburgh, and then as part of our 2022 department goals, HR department goals, that's when the chief really said, you know, we want to move forward with planning the ERG. So the goal is to plan this year to make the recommendation by the end of Q3, so we can, you know, discuss budgeting in that for 2023.
Awesome. Thank you. Because I just was curious if other people are in that phase, what should they be pipelining and benchmarking for time of executing this? And I think that's fair. You did become a member last year, and this is kind of what we've seen. And maybe Danny, this will help you as you project, your membership just started last month or this month, and maybe in a few months, 6 months, 7 months, you'll be ready to start that planning and launching phase. But we're here to help you. We have the toolkit. We did drop it in the chat. And so please look to us for additional resources. And Jennifer, it's been really exciting to be engaged with your employee resource groups and to watch them flourish and to see the different variations based off of who is participating in that buy-in from CMU. It's been beautiful. And Darcel and Juanita, obviously, your expertise, and Tammy. I feel like the three of you have really been doing this for a long time. And if anybody's on the call and thinking of who should they reach out to as a mentor, my go-to is always Tammy, Darcel, and Juanita. And that's who I think of when I think of who's been really successful at bringing people together around marginalized identities and also making that business case and the business imperative for having a successful employee resource group. So thank you all for that. I'm going to unpin you, remove your spotlight so you can turn off your cameras if you would like. I know Tammy had to go somewhere. You're the last one. Here we go. Remove spotlight. Remove spotlight. But I wanted to share a little bit. I'll spotlight myself. I wanted to share a little bit about what we have going on for the next few weeks and months. This month, there are several cultural observations that we wanted to make sure we're on your radar, maybe incorporating your marketing team with some of these dates to make sure that you are sharing opportunities or creating events, and we're just recognizing people with diverse backgrounds. So May is Indian Heritage Month. It is also Jewish American Heritage Month. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. It is National Asian American and South Pacific Island Heritage Month, South Asian American Heritage Month. So there are a lot. And you will see some awareness months come out on our social media. We try to get them on your radar too. Next month, I think most people are aware, June is usually Pride Month in the United States. And then we have some days that we would like to just make sure we're recognizing as well throughout the month of May, including the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia, Cinco de Mayo in a few days, Memorial Day, which we're all excited about because we probably get days off of work here and there, Juneteenth, which some of you may have off. I think Vibrant Pittsburgh has initiated it as a holiday, and you should consider that for your companies as well. But that is June 19th, and then Independence Day, July 4th, which most of you are aware of. And I did want to take a minute here. I'm gonna pass the mic to Irving to talk a little bit about collecting feedback survey and any other information share that you have, Irv.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just drop the link into the chat. So we're going to take about 2 to 3 minutes to do this feedback survey based off of this panel discussion that we had. We want to just get your feedback, get to know like what you took away, what were some salient points, how did you benefit from this meeting today. So if you don't mind taking those 2 to 3 minutes, we'll reconvene at 4:19 and then go from there. So we really appreciate your feedback, and thank you to those who stuck around or were able to stick around. So yeah.
And I think this goes to speak to Tammy's point of really trying to figure out new ways to measure success of councils. And, whenever we don't get the data as soon as we have the meeting, then it kind of gets lost. People forget about it. If you're not able to complete it now, at least keep it open on your tabs and get back to it before the end of this week. That would be great. But we want to try to make sure we're capturing that information now, especially from our panelists and those that participated today. And now I'm going to stop talking because you need to fill this out. Are you good here, Irving?
Yeah, it is 4:19 now. So thank you, everyone. And please continue to fill that out if you haven't finished.
So if anybody has any updates for the group that they would like to share, we'd love to hear from them. I know we've lost most of them, a lot of our attendees here probably after the survey, but this is just a space we like to provide in case you have anything that your organization is doing that you would like to share. This is the time to do that. So if you have any events coming up for Pride, or you have any events coming up in May, or our next meeting is not until August, so within that span, we'd love to hear about some of the things you're doing at this time.
Yeah, Gina, I can kind of get us kickstarted here.
Yeah,
and speaking to like the conversation piece during the panel discussion, as the panelists mentioned, some of the areas of interest of the employees was volunteering and civic engagement. We have one of our newest members, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. We have a representative here, Maggie Giel. Apologies if I mispronounced your last name, but Maggie is the program director, and she wants to share with you some volunteering opportunities that you can share out to your EBRG. So Maggie, you can take it away.
Thanks, Irving. Hello, everyone. I recognize many of names on here from other organizations and other ways we have worked together. So yes, we are a new member of Vibrant Pittsburgh. Happy to be here, excited to be here amongst a really awesome group of people. So this is a really strong kickoff season for us. Starting in the summertime, we do a large recruitment for 2/3 of our programming that is working directly with schools. So EBRGs at local corporations are kind of our niche and kind of a great way to capture a large group of people that want to give back, that want to mentor in their community. The future of Pittsburgh is in our schools and in the communities in which we serve. So if you're not familiar with Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Greater Pittsburgh, we serve all of Allegheny, all of Washington, and all of Greene counties. It's one-to-one mentoring. So for every child we have in our programming, we have a volunteer associated with that. Right now, we have about 200 kids on our waiting list. So we would love an opportunity to come and speak to any EBRGs. We do in-person, virtual, 7 a.m., 7 p.m., 3 p.m. They can be info sessions, they can be snack sessions, anything to get in front of your EBRGs and speak more specifically about our organization is what we're here to do. I know you guys were speaking about events coming up. We are excited to be announcing some of new programming that we are bringing to Pittsburgh in relation to Pride Month. We'll be starting a program called Big Siblings in the LGBT community. More on that will be coming out in the next few weeks. So looking to get that word out there within companies as well to create awareness around that particular program and starting it off. So we are excited. Yeah, 200 on the wait list. It's a pretty thorough process, but it is strategic matching, but happy to walk through anyone through that process. I can send my information in the chat box, but would love to connect with somebody to be able to speak to you, your EBRGs, about our opportunities.
Awesome. And Maggie, you have any resources that we can share out? Because I know there are many people who had to leave a little bit early. And so we can share out any flyers and other resources you might have surrounding these opportunities.
Sure will. I'll attach it.
Okay, cool.
And Maggie, this is Tammy Bay from BNY Mellon. I don't have access to the chat. BNY Mellon has banded that from, so we don't have access. So if Irving, can you please send me some information?
Oh, definitely.
We'll send something in the follow-up because I think PNC, you all have that same issue with not being able to access chat.
Yeah.
So we'll send a follow-up with some of this info.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Okay, Gina, I'm going to kick it back to the, do we have another PowerPoint? Okay, cool.
There's a slide for everything, Irving. I get a little slide crazy. No, but I did want to talk about a little bit, and I could kick to Kai or just mention, we had our Celebrate Diversity campaign, which was really successful, and it was really nice to see Tammy, and I think we had Jennifer featured also, and I also think we had Stacey talking about what diversity means to them. We also engaged our Next Generation Council. We're going to continue to have these opportunities to feature our members and to feature your voice, which gives your organization some more credibility around the things that they're doing for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So keep that in mind as the time goes on. And then I just wanted to mention really briefly and to say thank you to everybody that came to the Allegheny Allies launch. It was so much fun. We had a great turnout. We had 170 folks register. We had about 100 people attend, and it was, you know, it was the first in-person event that we had with that many people since 2019. So it was really amazing. We did 2 different activities, which I recommend to any ERG to participate in and to start doing, these speed networking and the unboxing activity. If you're not familiar with either of them, I can send you some information on them. But it was really great fun to see everybody engaging and speaking and getting to know each other and finding our commonalities instead of all of our differences. So continue to push that out. If you're interested in participating, we can drop the link to sign up, and I'll follow up with the link to sign up for Allegheny Allies in the future, because we will be having a meeting, I believe, in August or July again for our next one. And then just to go over the rest of the events coming up for Vibrant Pittsburgh over the next few months. We had that, I mentioned the Allegheny Allies lunch. We just had the Turning the Great Resignation into a Great Reengagement, which is live on our website. If you would like to see that, it was a session Sabrina did about how to leverage this opportunity where our employees are leaving the workplace, but really to get them engaged to stay. And then tomorrow we have our CEO breakfast, and we do have a cookout on May 18th, which is primarily for our Next Generation Council, but I do want to extend the invitation to our EBRG Council as well. We're going to be just hanging out and meeting with some young professionals that are in the DEI space or just working and passionate about this work. So I can send that invite too. We have a lunch and learn on May 25th around the business case for DEI. And then our next one is June 15th around the ABCs of LGBTQIA identity. And then I mentioned the Allegheny Allies, which is July 21st. So keep those on your radar. I'll send follow up for some of those save the dates as well. And then if anyone else is interested in attending one of our member companies, the Pittsburgh Allegheny County Parks Foundation is having a really cool event called Park Till Dark and the Pour at the Park, which is kind of what it sounds like. It's like a bunch of brewers will be at the park, but there's all day activities for free at South Park on May 14th. And if you would like to go, you can, the Park Till Dark is free, but the Pour at the Park is about $55. So we have a $10 code. If you are interested in attending that, you just have to type in Vibrant in all caps, and you will be able to attend that with a little bit of a price break. Our next meeting is on August the 2nd on engaging and sustaining. So if anybody would like to be on that panel, please reach out to us, but I probably will make some individual requests there as well. And I believe we do have somebody lined up from Duquesne Light already. And that's it. That's all we have. And not that that's it. That was a very robust meeting. I appreciate everybody that stayed, that paneled, that worked with us to really get to the heart of launching and planning your ERG, and we look forward to meeting with you in the future. Feel free to reach out to me at ginaw@vibrantpittsburgh.org or anyone on our team, Irving or Kai, or Darcel and Juanita. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.